Continue trickling in. And we will be recording this for posterity and your viewing pleasure later.
You on mute? What about a salad?
All right, in the interest of time, we are going to go ahead and get started. It is my absolute pleasure to be the one to introduce you to this event tonight. Welcome to the 2022 NextGen Fellows graduation of the Diabetes Link. To start off, huge congratulations to our fellows. Thank you for sharing your passion, your dedication, and your enthusiasm for our community. It has been a privilege to get to know many of you over the past few months. And for those on the call who I do not know, my name is Christina Roth, and I'm the CEO and founder of the Diabetes Link, formerly known as the College Diabetes Network. I would also like to give a huge thank you to our staff, particularly Casey Abrams, who helped to really bring this program to life this year. Thank you to our peer organization partners, ADA and ADCES and CBDCE, our Summit Series speakers, and all of the incredible professional mentors and generous sponsors that helped to make this 2022 fellowship possible. Really, this year has been a huge year for the organization. For those that aren't aware, we actually went through an entire organizational rebrand this year, taking us from the College Diabetes Network to the Diabetes Link. And this really exemplified the role that these fellows and that next-gen leaders play in the organization. These fellows have been at the forefront of our rebrand work since the very beginning. They've provided feedback and weighed in on everything from colors to logo to tagline to how to bring it all to life. This NextGen Fellowship originated way back in 2013 with a student advisory council, evolving into leadership retreats and then integrating into conference attendance and mentorship, bringing us to the program that we now have today. The students that participated back then helped to shape the organization into what it is today and what resources and support we provide. This group of fellows will have a similar legacy in that they have been so central to bringing this new rebrand to life so that all young adults with diabetes can benefit from the Diabetes Link moving forward. But all of this, of course, requires a huge investment. So we are incredibly, incredibly grateful to all of our supporters and our board members and our sponsors for giving us the financial resources to make this possible. We do need all of you to stay involved and to get involved in order to help make this program a success. Please share the program with young adult leaders in your life. Our applications will open in January in 2023 for our next cohort. Keep an eye on your email and your social. And we are always looking for superstar mentors to help to support our future fellows as well. And whether you're willing to help to support us at $5 or $50 or $5,000, your investment of your time, your finance, it really helps us to make our mission possible and to offer this fellowship and its in-person conference attendance in particular to young adults completely free of charge. And one last thing that I will close on is a very, very generous mentor or matching challenge that a very generous donor has given us, where they will be matching up to $100,000 through the end of this year. So if you have any interest in supporting the work that we do, this is a really fantastic year to do it. So thank you for considering. But without any further ado, I am actually going to turn it over to Will Jeanette, who is our newly promoted program manager for leadership development, to tell you more about what is possible within the next year, and potentially to go back to some slides to do some individual shout outs as well that I might have skipped over. So Will, turning it over to you, but so pleased to have all of you with us tonight to help us celebrate the hard work that these fellows have put into these past few months.
Thank you so much, Tina. Thanks everybody again for being here tonight to celebrate the incredible work of these fellows. I met most of these fellows a little bit later in their program and have just been blown away at the incredible things that they have accomplished, and enjoyed thoroughly getting to meet some of them in person at the ADCES conference in August. And I'm really excited to say that next year I will be the staff member responsible for running the NextGen Fellowship. So I'm very excited to kind of get my hands involved in this program and to really help continue to refine based on our feedback and our observations and elevate this program into the future. So on that note, Andrea, if we can go back just a couple of slides, I do just want to leave them up for a moment for people to look at our mentors and our speakers. Many of you are here tonight. This is such a critical portion of the program and something that people have reported, time and time again being wildly impactful for them and their career growth. And without the mentorship and these mentors, caring about our mission and volunteering their time to work one-on-one with these young adults, this program would not be possible. So huge thank you to our mentors. We would love to see some of you return in the future, or recommend anybody else you think might be a good fit. And you can all expect to be hearing from me in the future. And then also to our Summit Series speakers. So this is a critical portion of the program as well. The fellows really get to get deeply involved in learning about the diabetes sphere from the experts. And this is something that's super critical and that equips them very well to attend these conferences in person with the knowledge that they need in order to dazzle and be the incredible people that you all know them to be. And then lastly, I would like to also thank CBDCE and Novo Nordisk for their involvement and their funding for this program. It wouldn't be possible without them. And yeah, we're just ever thankful for their partnership. With that, I would love to spend just a brief moment talking about what it is that is possible for next year and that we're really excited to announce for next year's program. The first being that I will be the first full-time dedicated staff member to run the NextGen program. It's always been a key focus area of our program team, but it's never had a specific dedicated staff member before. And so I'm really excited about the opportunity to be involved in every step of the way and sort of guide the program along with the kind of continuity and expertise that can come from that. So as I said, many of you can look forward to hearing from me. And if you have any questions about the program or know a young adult who absolutely must apply, you can send them my way. I'm also very excited to announce and introduce that we will be creating a third cohort to the program. So this year we had 2 separate cohorts that had sort of specific curriculums and specific topic areas. And this year, we're really excited to expand to a third cohort to focus and narrow those topic areas even more by partnering with DLC and DPAC to create a cohort focused on advocacy. So if you know any young adults in your life who you think need to know about this, please send them our way. We're very excited to continue to refine the program and continue to provide these students with even more sort of in-depth knowledge based on their own interests. So next year, with the full-time dedicated staff, we're going to be able to have 3 cohorts attending 3 conferences and doing 3 sets of projects, all related to the passion areas and interests of our fellows. So with that, I would encourage anybody with questions about this or how to support the program to reach out to either myself or Tina or anyone with staff after their name on the Zoom tonight. but I'm really excited to turn it over to the people that you actually came here to see. So without further ado, I will hand it over to our NextGen Fellows to present on their projects.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much, Will, for transitioning it over. And so good evening, everyone. And on behalf of the NextGen 2022 Fellows Off to College Workbook Group, we want to welcome you to our presentation on the new and improved Off to College Workbook Guide. Next slide. So in our presentation, we aim to first establish the reasons why we repurposed the older Off to College Guide as a workbook, two, briefly outline our target audiences, and three, highlight young adult stories in the context of diabetes management across the following four content areas as shown above. Next slide. So what is the Off to College Workbook? The Off to College Workbook is an updated version of CDN's guides with prompts and space for today's incoming college students. And one might ask, so why a new version? What's the inspiration for it? And this new and improved workbook, its key emphasis is person first. So advice is shared directly from a young adult perspective, and that was key when we were writing content. There are interactive elements that enable the user to make it personal to their own journey. And then additionally, it features QR codes, which are linked to the Diabetes Link Resource Hub for more information. And then I think our overarching philosophy as a whole was like, I've been through it, I get it, and I want this to be a better experience for someone else. Next slide. So while the workbook itself is for young adults who are either considering attending college or who are already in college, it can be a great tool for clinicians to share with patients or for caregivers to share with their young adults. Because the insights from the lived experiences of the young adults who wrote this workbook are ubiquitous, we have made 4 different intro letters welcoming each audience to our workbook. Next slide. And I'll transition it over to our college prep group.
Thank you so much for that, Ben. So the first subsection of the book is about college preparation, and we wanted to just help students and their parents make this transition a whole lot easier. And so the first thing that we wanted to do for this was to make a little to-do list, and not just for the senior year, but to start this earlier. So for juniors, maybe even sophomores, so that parents can feel more comfortable and confident in their child's ability to manage their diabetes independently, and so that the young adult also has that confidence. And so we have a list of recommended activities and discussions to have before making that transition. And then we also provided space for students to add things that were important to them that we might not have thought of. And the other thing that we wanted to include in this preparatory period is an open space for students to have the opportunity to reflect on how diabetes has affected their life and their experiences, and to, if they so choose, write about this in their college application essays or scholarship essays. I know many of the fellows, including myself, did choose to do this. For me personally, having diabetes really shaped both my career goals and my major choice. And so I wanted to hopefully make diabetes technology better, and that's why I chose to be a bioengineer. So that was a really big part of my application, and we wanted to offer the space for students who might want to do something similar to have that open place of reflection. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Kimberly. So college is a pivotal time for all young adults to branch out from their caregivers and come into their independent identities, as I'm sure anyone that's on this call has experienced when going to college. It's incredibly important for all students to also gain autonomy at this time, and setting boundaries with those close to you is one of the ways that you're able to gain this autonomy and independence when moving into college. Specifically relating to diabetics, it's incredibly important to learn certain boundaries with your caregivers in order to protect young adults' ability to take responsibility for their own medical decisions, as well as being able to care for yourself. This also comes along with maintaining the freedoms that come with being an adult. So it's incredibly important to set boundaries where both caregivers and young adults feel a balance of support and a healthy distance from their parents, where students also feel comfortable experimenting with new experiences, lifestyles, and pathways into adulthood. While it's common knowledge that college students are notoriously good at keeping in contact with their parents, I know I was personally calling my parents every single night before bed with all the tea about my day, and definitely did not forget to call them for the first month of school. It may be necessary for some students to make a plan with their parents about how often they'll be communicating while away. So not only is it important to establish these boundaries with the student's parents, but it's also important for a college student to set these boundaries with their providers and themselves before heading off to college. These boundaries are also going to change a ton throughout the student's experience, and we hope that the flexibility of this handbook also facilitates this opportunity. So what is this section going to include so that we're able to facilitate boundary setting with students and their caregivers? Well, first of all, we have an introduction where we're explaining how important it is and why it is so important to set boundaries as diabetics with parents, endos, and ourselves, and potentially roommates as well. So we've also included a communication agreement that students can complete with their caregivers, some boundary priorities that they can complete on their own. And then we've also provided the opportunity of using the Dexcom Share or other CGM sharing applications to facilitate an environment of mutual respect and support between caregivers and students. And then to finish it all up, we've actually also included a boundary contract that parents and students can sign so they feel a little bit more confident in their relationship that they've decided to go forward with their caregivers. Next slide.
So the other component that we wanted to include in this section is an opportunity for students to consider and reflect upon what aspects of the school are most important for them. And so one part of this may be diabetes. What kind of dining halls does the school offer? What kind of accommodation and support does the school provide? But of course, academics is a central component to the college experience, as well as things like extracurriculars. Maybe a student would rather be closer to home, or they would really like to branch out and move to a new city. So keeping all of this in mind, we decided to create a matrix that would allow students to pick the aspects of school options that are most important to them, and then write down the schools that they are considering. And then they have the ability to rank them either numerically or just kind of check off if the school has that feature or doesn't. And so we also wanted to provide some pages to just kind of jot down what other thoughts or reflections they have, and just keeping everything in mind. So hopefully this will help simplify what can be a very, very overwhelming process into something that's a little bit neater and tighter. So with that, we can move on to the next section.
So our next section is aptly called the basics. However, we understand that adding diabetes into the equation of college life can make those basics not as straightforward anymore. Because of this, we've not only reiterated some important practical tips that our young adult audience may already know, but also prompted them to consider how these facets of their life might change as a result of entering college. Next slide, please. So the first topic that I'll be discussing with you all is something that's deeply personal for me, and that's exercise. As a college athlete at Wayne State University, after one season on the swim team, I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And at that time, I realized just how important routine is to facilitate consistent management of blood glucose. And whether you're a varsity athlete or you're someone who likes to integrate personal workout time, or someone who maybe isn't into the workout niche, but likes to find different ways to move throughout their day, or even someone who's just walking or biking to class, understanding how to prepare for those different movements that are naturally going to occur from day to day is so important. And we fellows, from our lived experiences, understand that schedules are dynamic in college. You might have evening classes a couple days a week and morning classes on different days of the week. So the times when you get to integrate exercise might not be the same each day. That's why, in addition to providing some tips that our young adult audience may already know surrounding how to deal with lows and highs during exercise, we've also encouraged them to come up with a routine based on what their class schedule shapes out to be, and or considering who they might look to support them in their exercise routine, their activities, and who they might look to for accountability. Next slide, please. So the last two topics that I'm going to be discussing, I'll be kind of combining. And those are two very important things, nutrition and sleep. And again, focusing on what makes these things different in a college environment. We began by considering the questions that we asked ourselves when we were trying to navigate this transformative time of college. And those include things like counting carbs in the cafeteria, navigating a local restaurant scene where nutrition information might not be as readily available. And also when we advance beyond utilizing a meal plan or cafeterias or eating out, how to grocery shop and cook for ourselves and budget for groceries, which is why for our activity in this section, we've encouraged students to kind of practice making a shopping list so that they aren't only considering kind of incorporating every macronutrient to support consistent blood sugars, but also just thinking about more practical things that aren't so diabetes specific, like budgeting. And lastly, of course, all of my fellows, I'm sure I speak for them all when I say that sleep can be difficult to come by in college, whether that's by choice, if you're out with friends late at night on the weekends, or you're needing to stay up late to get a project done or prepare for an exam. So not only are we aiming to support reinforcement of good sleep habits, like having a snack before sleep to prevent lows, we're also focusing on less diabetes specific strategies to encourage consistent sleep, to make the sleep count. So having a hygiene routine, creating an ambiance. These are some of the things that we chose to focus on. With that, I will now hand it off to my good friend and fellow collegiate swimmer, Tanner, to discuss the latter topics in this section.
Thank you, Chris. And thank you everyone for being here. So the first section that I'll be talking about is alcohol. And it's important to know that the diabetes link does not encourage the consumption of alcohol, especially if college students are under the legal drinking age of 21 years old. However, some students and young adults may choose to engage in this practice when they go off to college. And depending on the relationship that college student has with his or her care team and the relationship that that individual has with the family, discussing alcohol and how that can affect blood glucose levels may not be discussed prior to that person stepping foot on campus. So we as an organization believe that it's very important to equip individuals living with diabetes with the knowledge that they need to make the best decisions for themselves. And in this section, we discuss best practices for drinking alcohol with diabetes. And one of the things that we discussed, and we did not choose to show this in a screen grab, but we discussed how glucagon does not work when individuals are intoxicated or have been drinking alcohol, because that is a common myth and something that we are trying to make sure the population is aware of before drinking alcohol and dealing with a tragic low. Next slide. Another topic that we decided to include in this workbook was the topic of sex and physical intimacy. And like any college student, it's important to discuss consent and also to discuss safe sex practices, which is what we want to do with those who may be going through this workbook. However, individuals living with diabetes may also have some other anxieties surrounding that vulnerability with a romantic partner. So we discussed ways to encourage conversations between individuals who may be having physical intimacy relationships. And we also talked about how to handle blood glucose levels while engaging in this type of activity. Next slide. And the last section that we'll be covering in this area is the topic of sick days. And like any individual or college student, people are bound to be sick, and immune systems will be run down no matter where you go to college or what you're doing or how great you're taking care of yourself. So we want to address sick days because as individuals living with diabetes, there is a heightened risk for ketones and other complications as a result of an even mild illness. So we wanted to focus in on the fact that college students often fit a lot of different activities into their daily schedules. But when it comes to those days when they are feeling under the weather, it's important to rest and make sure that individuals are putting themselves first so they can feel better physically and in turn recover at a much faster rate. We also, for this activity or for this section, we decided to ask individuals to create their own sick kit. So they are prepared, and when they are feeling sick and away from home for the very first time, they have everything in one central place and they know what they need to do in those moments. I will now be tossing it over to John, and he will discuss the transition to college.
All righty, thank you, Tanner, and hello, everyone, and good evening. So my group section was on transitioning to college, in which we discussed important aspects of this transition, such as self-advocacy, accommodations, and mental health. So first off, we wanted to discuss self-advocacy, which one of our NextGen fellows, Michael, decided to address. Personally, when I think of self-advocacy, I not only think of being able to stand up for myself as a young adult with diabetes, but also as empowering myself by utilizing resources that help me to manage my condition. As you are all aware, this kind of aligns with one of the main goals of the Diabetes Link, which is to empower young adults with diabetes, and in doing so, create self-advocates. The purpose of this self-advocacy section is to focus on the individual and help support each person in their journey to improve their management of diabetes. These pages were inspired by Michael's own personal journey towards becoming a self-advocate, and the links that you see on the first page lead towards online diabetic therapies, podcasts, nutritional diets, and other resources that were personally used by Michael in his diabetes journey. Although Michael has provided a few examples of resources, we did want to extend our conversation and resources towards our readers as well. And this is why on the second page, we also included a QR code in which readers can access a public forum called Jamboard. And on Jamboard, they will be allowed to share, post, and view other people's thoughts directly related to topics centered around diabetes self-advocacy. Our main goal in providing these resources towards young adults with diabetes is to serve as a reminder that they are not alone in their journey with diabetes, and that they too can develop their abilities to become self-advocates. And this is really important for college students because in this time when they're gaining their independence, this is the perfect opportunity for them to develop these skills so that they can manage their conditions by themselves. Next slide, please. Moving on, we wanted to discuss accommodations in college, for which I created the following workbook pages. The main reason I wanted to address the accommodations for diabetics was because I, like many other young adults with diabetes, didn't even know that I was eligible for accommodations until my third year of college. Aside from not knowing accommodations are even a possibility for young adults with diabetes, it was still unclear to me for how to even register for accommodations. That is why on the first page, I created a flowchart diagram to help students like myself navigate registering for accommodations for the first time. Additionally, it's scientifically proven that having highs or lows in college can greatly affect academic performance as well as other aspects of college life, which is why I include the next 2 pages to go over possible accommodations in the classroom, during exams, for housing and living, and additional accommodations. And in here, I also included checkboxes and lines that students could check off if they believe that these accommodations would be relevant to them, as well as make some notes about why they think they may need it. The main purpose in kind of, putting these accommodations right in the front is that we don't want our young adults with diabetes to feel ashamed or timid about using accommodations. So, when we put these accommodations out here, we're really trying to help young adults with diabetes kind of take advantage of their diabetes. Even though, most diabetics think of diabetes as something that's a burden, it's very nice and once in a while to kind of like take the little wins, like accommodations that come with it. All right, next slide, please. And finally, we wanted to discuss mental health and diabetes, something that most of us probably don't associate with each other at first. Thank you. However, in a 2021 survey by the Diabetes Link, 63% of young adults said that diabetes is moderately or extremely burdensome. And coupled with a survey by the T1D Exchange that reports that at least 30% of young adults with diabetes struggle with anxiety or depression, it's very clear that mental health and diabetes needs to be spoken about. I know personally, when I'm waking up in the middle of the night at a blood sugar of 50, not only do I feel annoyed and burnt out of having to deal with a low, but also I feel disappointed in myself that I wasn't able to prevent this low. One of our NextGen fellows, Katya, decided to create the workbook pages for this section, in which she not only validates the negative feelings associated with diabetes burnout, but also focuses a more positive light in finding ways to cope with burnout. With these pages, we really wanted to emphasize that we are not alone in feelings of burnout and struggles with mental health associated with diabetes, and that it is okay to feel this way. Of course, we also wanted to provide ways to cope with these feelings, whether it's through peer support, being active, or engaging in a hobby. And altogether, that was our section of the workbook for the transition to college, and I'd like to hand it off to Megan now.
Thank you, John. Next slide, please. So in the additional topics portion, we covered a variety of different topics, including supplies, packing, preparation, and the care team. So as many of you probably know, diabetes comes with a lot of supplies, having to keep up with it, store it, and organize it. Our goal in this section was to provide a framework to help students consider what types of supplies and storage they might want to utilize, whether they're moving into their first dorm, first apartment, or simply what and how they're going to carry supplies to campus. We created a general supplies list and leave space for students to fill in the blank with what works for them, and even ask them to consider what's worked in the past as well. We also include a link to the Diabetes Link articles and resources where students can find even more specific information on traveling, navigating TSA, and planning road trips with diabetes. We also realize that even when students do their best to prepare, there are going to be some extreme situations they might find themselves in. And this could be supply or even power outages. So here we also have a section where students can at least start to form a contingency plan for themselves. Next slide, please. In this section, we focus all on the care team, including who is on the care team and how to go about finding providers. This section was specifically important to me because when I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes in my early 20s, I had to figure out not only what providers were there to help me, but also had to decide for myself if those providers that I was paired with were giving me the support I needed and whether or not they were helping me to be successful and feel successful in my diabetes management. At the end of the day, we are the ones living the 24/7 of diabetes, and we need a team there for us to support us, empower us, and believe in us. Here in this section, we provide questions for students to evaluate their interactions with providers to determine if they're getting the support they need and to learn how they can be an advocate for themselves and their care. Next slide, please. So this wraps up the workbook. We really want to thank all of you so much for your time tonight, for being here and listening to this presentation, and all of your support throughout the fellowship. Next slide, please. And here are all the amazing fellows who worked on this workbook. You can find our contact information underneath our names and pictures. Thank you again so much, and I will pass it back to you, Will.
Hi, everybody. I'm actually going to jump in, Will, really quickly, because I want to thank our group and say hello for the guests that, I'm seeing for the first time. I am the director of programs here, and myself and Mary Jane, who was our program manager of education, worked with this fantastic group on this project. So I just wanted to give a little bit of context and say hi, let everyone know who the support was supporting our fellows as they did this project. It's also something that's near and dear to my heart as a caregiver, a mom of a teenager who's heading into this. And, for everyone in our group, we talked about this a lot of your parents and a lot of your lived experiences and what you guys went through and your parents went through when you were going through this process. That's why it was so important to us to have this next version of all of our resources written by you from your mouths. So we're so proud of you, so impressed by how seriously you took this and all the work that you did. And you better believe that my kid will be using this book when she's heading off to college and we get it published. And so for everyone and that's attending to know that our intention of the Diabetes Link is to take the next version of this and produce it, actually, produce the book and put it out in the world with our resource hub and to clinicians and to resources. So I just wanted to wrap up some context of this project. And again, thank our fellows and my coworker, Mary Jane. And I'm going to then pass it on to our second group because I know we're running a little long on time to my colleague, Molly, and their group project that they did.
All right. Hello, everyone. It's my pleasure to introduce the Project 2 topic and its team members. Will and I were the Diabetes Link team members involved in this project, and it's very near and dear to our hearts since Will and I are both former chapter leaders ourselves. Where Are They Now is a series of content designed for social media that features alumni of the NextGen program. The fellows were asked to reach out to at least one NextGen alum and interview them to learn about their experience with the fellowship and how it impacted them. They were responsible for 3 deliverables: a written interview, a social media graphic, and a video snippet of the interview that highlighted a key message from their interviewee. The written interviews will be featured on the Diabetes Link's website in the coming months, whereas graphics and videos will be shared on our social media. And there's my Omnipod chiming in with some feedback. The goal of this project is to highlight the success of our NextGen program and alum and encourage people to apply to the program in the future. Where Are They Now is especially important in the face of the rebrand, seeing as it illustrates to those who have a relationship and affinity with the College Diabetes Network that they are still instrumental parts of the organization and our identity. We want alumni to feel connected to our organization and know that there's space for them in this community as they navigate all the transitions associated with young adulthood. And that includes graduation from college, graduation from the NextGen program, and so forth. We look forward to seeing how this network of alumni grows and engages with the Diabetes Link over time. And this project is evidence of just one way that alum can continue to stay involved and engaged post-graduation and beyond. Without further ado, I'll let our Project 2 fellows take it away and share about their project.
Hi, everyone. My name is Georgia Cheek, and I had the honor of being one of the NextGen fellows this year. I was diagnosed when I was 3, but really grew in my confidence and ability to advocate for diabetes when I joined the Ohio State University chapter of the Diabetes Link. So I owe a lot to this program and just the opportunities it has given me. But for this project, I had the privilege of speaking with Casey Creel. She was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes when she was 7 years old. During my conversation with her, we talked about how large the diabetes sector is and how there are so many advocates because of how much work needs to be done within this community. In college, Casey started her own chapter as well as being a student athlete. Now post-grad, Casey co-founded Diversity in Diabetes, a nonprofit where she works to increase the representation of healthcare professionals in diabetes management, advocates to increase knowledge of diabetes treatment options for people of color, and just improve overall access to the community. She just hosted her 3rd annual People of Color Living with Diabetes Virtual Summit, which was really cool to hear about all those experiences that she had. Casey really inspired me with a lot of what she has said, what she has done, and how she has gotten there. But the quote that really stuck with me, and I think will touch a lot of people, is decide what matters to you and stick to that. There are so many different advocacy avenues you can go down, and that is why there are so many advocates. There's so much work that needs to be done, but I would say understand what your mission is, stick to it, and don't let anyone waver you from that. I really loved talking to Casey, and it was really an honor to be able to talk with alumni and see where this program has gotten them.
I think we're ready for the next slide. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Bridget. I had the opportunity to speak with Emily Swanson, who was one of last year's NextGen alumni, and we had a wonderful conversation. We even found out that we live in the same city, which was crazy. And she was talking about how important this fellowship was to her and how much her mentor helped her even through nursing school. At one point she reflected on how she was just talking about all the different diabetes drugs she was learning about, and her mentor just like pulled out a list of all the drugs and like sent it to her with everything she needed to know. So she loves the program. And I pulled out an interesting quote from her, and she just talks about the unwavering support that she got from the fellowship. She said, "The fellowship supports you, it supports advocacy, and it supports connections." So just a really awesome reflection. So that's it from me.
Hi, everyone. My name is Catherine, and I had the honor of interviewing Emily Sereda. We both got diagnosed in 2009, like within a month of each other, which was a really funny coincidence. She had an awesome success story that I wanted to share with you all. She joined CDN through the Tufts University chapter called Pumped, and she mentioned prior to that she didn't really know anyone with diabetes or had any friends with diabetes, and was able to make a lot of connections through CDN, which I related to a lot. I feel like I did not know many kids with diabetes growing up, and now I have like this wonderful support group. So it was a great experience that she also shared with me. And she is now in her second year at Cooper Medical School in Camden, New Jersey. So she's come a long way from when she first joined CDN. And one memory that she shared with me that I wanted to highlight was when she went to California for the ADA conference with CDN. And she said she has like a very vivid memory of everyone in the group going low at the same time, walking up one of the hills in California, which I thought was really funny because she did mention that she didn't really know anyone with diabetes prior to joining CDN. And now she has this like awesome experience in going to California with CDN, and then having this memory of like experience something with everyone at the same time, which wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for CDN. And I really liked that memory of hers. So yeah, thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Bailey Cox. I had the pleasure of interviewing Crystal Diaz. I really enjoyed talking to her because she's actually my same age and lives where I hope to live after graduation, which is San Diego. So Crystal was diagnosed at 18 and found community in her school's chapter. I thought that was really helpful, and I can totally relate to that because I, of course, didn't know like a ton of people whenever I came to college, nor did I know anybody that had diabetes. So I think that was really helpful for her to start her journey that way. She recently graduated and is taking a gap year before starting PA school, where she plans to become a patient advocate through her practice. She told me that she attended the Friends for Life conference, and her parents also came with her, and they realized that the community is so much larger than they had ever expected. And this experience gave her her two best friends that both live with T1D. And she has found like a community and a group of people who all want to accomplish the same goals. And she developed, through the fellowship, a passion for advocacy and using the power of her voice to change the lives of her future patients. I think I have one more slide, but I'm not 100% sure. So let's try the next slide. Oh yeah, there we go. So again, she was diagnosed at 18, found community in her school's chapter. I really liked how she explained why she joined or why she applied to the fellowship. She wasn't sure about applying and last minute decided to do it. She shared with me that this completely changed her perspective on her career decision, and she gained a passion for patient advocacy. She, just like all of us, found a home in the community and strives to make it a better place for all type 1 diabetics. So that's really all that I have, but I really enjoyed doing this whole project. Crystal was a very relatable and fantastic person, and hopefully going to be my first friend whenever I actually make it to San Diego. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, Project Group 2. You guys did a wonderful job, and we cannot wait to start featuring all of these alumni spotlights in the coming months. So stay tuned, check that out on our social media. And thank you again, Project 2 team. With that, I will turn it over to Andrea to introduce Project 3.
Hello, everybody. My name is Andrea Skinner, and I'm Development Manager here at the Diabetes Link. So with this project, the goal was to work with these wonderful fellows to infuse the young adult voice into our communications and stewardship materials. This project has 3 parts. One, we had the students look and find videos to infuse into appeals and put in social media for different segments of donors and community members. One is a statement that they put together focused on industry and describing our corporate funding program. And the third part was a fundraising toolkit. So I'm going to pass it off to Annalise and the experts on this team.
Hi, everybody. My name is Annalise McAmer. I'm lucky enough to be a NextGen Fellow. Basically, as Andrea was saying, our focus was mission advancement, and our specific part of the project focused on project deliverables, which were split into 3 parts, which was, as she mentioned, the thank you and stewardship content for donors, possible donors, different target audiences, such as parents, family communities, young adults just kind of on their own. Also the industry funding statement and the peer-to-peer fundraising toolkit. Next slide, please. Thank you. So the purpose of this project is to introduce and welcome the new identity, sorry about the noise, of the Diabetes Link with our stakeholders and the community, especially straight from the students who have had the honor of experiencing the Diabetes Link in action and were given the opportunity to participate in the NextGen 2020 fellowship. The rebrand means a lot to the people affected by the Diabetes Link, but it could mean the same, if not even more, to people who aren't even aware of the Diabetes Link. I mean, kind of the whole point of this was to use our voices to get the information out, us kind of acknowledging and saying, we are so grateful for this program, we're so grateful for this company, and it kind of boasting about it to other people and hoping that we get the word across and everything. It allows us young adults to be able to support other young adults, create a safe, open environment for those outside of college, in college, and to allow for us to expand to be inclusive of all young adults who are going through the same disease that we live with every day. The content produced in this project is meant to express the positive effects of the Diabetes Link and the effects that it has on young adults across America, and to explain why the Diabetes Link matters, how it's impacted our lives, and why people should donate to this wonderful community. Next slide, please. These next couple of slides are going to kind of take into account some quotes from people across different chapters, just young adults that we're all that we know, kind of their experiences with the Diabetes Link. This one girl is a very close friend of mine. Her name is Gabby. We're both in the Diabetes Club together here at Florida State University. She was one of my first friends, not ever with diabetes, but especially as blossoming into a young adult. And she kind of focused on expressing her kind of gratefulness to the Diabetes Link through the parent community audience, because she's out of state. And we've had various talks about how it's very scary for parents, also the young adults, but it's very scary for parents to send their children off to whether that be a school, out of state, in state, just in general. It's can be a scary experience, and especially with living with type 1 diabetes as well. Her video is very inspiring, and it really brought forth the effects of the Diabetes Link. Next slide, please. And here we have a video from Shayna.
Of young diabetics.
I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes when I was 10 years old, and let me just say, it was a scary time. No one in my family had this disease, and it seemed like no one around me understood my challenges, and I felt alone, struggling with my newfound identity. It wasn't until college, when I joined my university's chapter, that I found a safety net of people just like me, diabetics dealing with the challenges I was facing on a daily basis. Now I have 2 kids of my own, a 5-year-old and a 1-year-old. And when I had my kids, I could not help but feel this immense guilt towards the possibility of exposing them to my bad genes. This guilt stems from the fact that when I grew up, I did not have the resources or diabetes support system I needed, and I would never want my kids to be alone in that battle. But I know now that there is a whole world out there ready to talk diabetes, and the Diabetes Link helps bring that community together and build that bridge of support. Now I can rest assured, knowing if worst does come to worst and my children were to inherit my disease, they will never be alone. They would have a whole system of close-knit individuals ready to support them, guide them, and help them transition through every stage in life. Of young diabetics.
And the next slide is me. So this, we kind of split it into different content parts, focusing on different audiences and you know, whose situations kind of best applied to who. Mine was focused on corporate partners, just kind of trying to get across the message of how important the Diabetes Link is to young adults and people coming into adulthood. I kind of just explained how I really didn't have a community in my hometown, especially in high school. I didn't really know anybody else with diabetes. In college. College did provide that, but especially the chapter at my college with the Diabetes Link kind of just gave me people who know what was going on in my life, who could answer questions, who asked me questions, and it was just very beneficial to me and to all of them as well. Next slide, please. And lastly, we have another member named Max. He is a sophomore in college, another good friend of mine, and he was kind of just expressing, he himself is out of state as well, so that kind of applied to him as well, but he was kind of saying, reiterating the same point that I made, that it's just kind of a nice network to have and something, a support system, even if it's one aspect of your life that it's focused on. Support is support, and it's extremely important to all of us. Next slide, please. And I'll pass it off to Jessica. Thank you all.
I can speak on behalf of this, also to donors and stakeholders as well. For me, it's a little bit of a different take where like my campus didn't have like the Diabetes Link or College Diabetes Network, but I kept hearing about them. I'd always use their resource packets just in case for information that I didn't know, but also more so like their mentorship program and the fellowship program is where it really has profound effect on me, because I always knew I wanted to work in the diabetes field, but however, I'm the first person in my family to graduate with a bachelor's, with a master's, and I didn't always have the help, guidance to assist me into asking those big questions to be like, how should I shift my career? Or like, where should I be focusing my career? And I just went, I'm good at this. I'm going in this direction. Not always the smartest method to go forward. It's worked out well so far, but I believe in like happy coincidences, if you want to call it that. And I applied for the program, but like why stakeholders should donate too. It's not just because of the tools, the community, but it also has helped me get my career transition and like the mentorship that has provided to have these type of discussions that I can now shift my gears toward like, I want to work in the sector, and like who's best to work in the sector than someone who has the knowledge within the field of science, at least for me, but also someone who has diabetes themselves, because I can also advocate from the inside. And then I think we could go to the next slide. I don't know what it is. I don't think it's me. Yeah. And transitioning off to Crystal and Ms. Deek.
Hi guys, my name is Crystal, and me and Mr. Deek had the pleasure to interview Amy and Christina to talk about industry partners, so we can talk about it for young adults and put together a statement to share with other young adults from perspectives as members of the community. We found that the team has a strong partnership across the industry and are excited to see what they can enable us to do, particularly related to our new expanded mission to support all young adults with different kinds of diabetes, regardless of what type they have and if they're pushing for a higher education. That's all I have to say.
Hi, I'm Nathan Conti, and I'm a recent graduate from Arizona State University. I joined my campus chapter of CDN, now the Diabetes Link, my sophomore year. And since our chapter was basically a fresh start that year, there wasn't really a precedent for how we did fundraising or other kind of activities. So Alex Firestone and I, and she couldn't make it, we created a short guide for young adults to easily begin fundraising on their own. And we don't really have time to go over all the slides, but it includes information on multiple steps of the fundraising process, including determining your fundraising goals, planning out your message, connecting with your target audience, finding fundraising methods, and most importantly, sending thank yous to your donors. We wanted to help young adults by providing a simple source of knowledge and resources that simplifies the format of a fundraising campaign. And we hope that it can be used by young adults around the country to start fundraisers of their own and engage in successful community outreach. That's all from the fundraising toolkit. And here's our team.
Thank you so much again, you guys. You guys just did an awesome job, and it was a pleasure.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for your presentations. I really appreciate it. And now it's my honor to turn it over to Crystal Samai, our VP of Mission.
Hi, everybody. I'm Crystal Samai. I am the Vice President of Mission here at the Diabetes Link. I have the incredible honor of working closely with our program team that helps bring this NextGen Fellowship to life, and have had the privilege of meeting most of our fellows and just interacting with them online and in person. And before I get into anything else, I want to thank each and every one of you for being here, but especially the fellows for all of your incredible work this year. You started this year with applications and getting to know each other, and you showed up vulnerably, authentically, eager to learn, eager to contribute, and eager to get to know each other and to help solve problems and to help fill gaps for young adults with diabetes. It's why our organization exists. It's why you're connected to us. You went through Summit Series programs where you learned online, and then you showed up to conferences, whether virtually or in person. Thank you for bearing with us as we came back to in-person programming for the very first time in 2 years. And then last but not least, you brought your passion, your enthusiasm, your education, your training to these projects. As I watched these presentations tonight, I was inspired and so awed by, that workbook. I cannot wait to work with the team to produce that. You guys, that's great. Diabetes is hard. It's a lot. I've lived with it for almost 30 years. I went through college without a guidebook, without friends, without a CDN chapter. Let me tell you, the future is brighter because of this kind of work. So thank you. And the interviews that you did with alumni, folks like Casey, who are going off and doing incredible things for the diabetes community. I would love to think that we helped set her off on that trajectory. This program, this fellowship, that the support she received from her peers and from this organization helped send her in that direction. And she's a close friend of the organization. We work really closely with her organization as well. But also Crystal and others who are now working in healthcare and who are moving on to these really cool opportunities to give back and to change the face of healthcare. This mentorship opportunity in this program helps make that possible. And then last but not least, our mission advancement group. This organization is a nonprofit. We can't do this work without donors, without corporate contributions, without people really believing in what we do. So thank you for helping bring that to life. yeah, there's a lot of exciting things to come next year under Will's guidance and leadership for the leadership development work the organization does. Another cohort of fellows and another group of people who will be interviewed and will get to tell their stories and to make a difference in the diabetes community. So without further ado, I want to open it up to questions for our fellows. If anybody has questions on any projects, comments, things they'd like to ask about, now's the forum, but thank you. Thank you for being here. Any questions for our fellows, for the organization? Is that awkward time where everyone's like, do we leave? All right, the chat is. You know what I forgot? No one's speaking up, but Cassie Abrams, a CDN former chapter member and leader, a NextGen fellow, and the incredible superstar who helped bring this program to life at the start of this year. She's joined us. She's in medical school. She lives with type 1 diabetes. She is in the throes of getting her career started in this like advanced degree, and she and I text on occasion. She is a superstar. Cassie, do you have anything you want to share with your fellows or with this group before we sign off?
Hi guys, long time no see. Great, fantastic presentations. I'm so proud of all of you and all the work you've been able to accomplish over the last few months. I hope, like I said at the beginning of the program, that what you put into it is what you get out of it, and I could tell that you guys got a lot out of it.
Thank you, Cassie. I'm gonna bring you donuts this weekend.
I'm holding you accountable for that.
Oh yeah, we're gonna card count. All right. Thank you again, everybody. Nobody's coming off mute, so I'm gonna go ahead and wish everybody a great evening. And again, thank you for joining us tonight. Really appreciate your time.
Just incredible. Thank you.
Great job, everyone.
Good night.